I want to ask you guys, how many of you are familiar with the American Bar Association's Rules of Professional Conduct? Probably all of you, right? You guys know this, Rule 5.4? Okay. Like, wait a second, what? Okay, Rule 5.4 prohibits non-lawyer ownership of law firms and fee sharing by lawyers with non-lawyers. Essentially says that non-lawyers can't own law firms. They must be owned by lawyers. Well, in 2020, something crazy happened. Almost like a once-in-a-lifetime event that would sweep the globe. I'm not talking about the virus. I'm talking about what happened again in Arizona. It's always Arizona. And Arizona eliminated Rule 5.4 in favor of alternative business structures, they call it ABS, so that non-lawyers could invest in and own law firms. Now, there's been some other states like Utah's trying a sandbox model. There's been some other states where they're also trying this. It got ruled down, but it will get there. And think about it. Why would such a bold step even be taken? Well, the argument, let me know if this sounds familiar. Those in favor said we have to be able to provide more access to those in need of justice. And we need to somehow drive more innovation. And those who opposed said, well, if you allow this to happen, and you allow non-lawyers to invest, well, then what happens when lawyers start prioritizing profits over serving their clients? Here's the thing about innovation. It's hard to argue that the legal industry has not kept up with the demands of the modern consumer. I mean, look, if Amazon can update you every step of the way of your toothpaste, it's on the way, it's on the truck, it's coming to you, it's at the door, and here's a picture for one tube of toothpaste. Why do clients have to struggle to get an update on their case? And now check this out. The former ABA president, Judy Perry Martinez, she said, we need new ideas. We're 1/5 into the 21st century, yet we continue to rely on 20th century processes, procedures, and regulations. Something has to change. And what will happen is going from a closed system, okay, here's what it looks like. It's a box. This means that only lawyers can own law firms and even compete with other lawyers, to an open system where, hey, maybe we're going to allow some others in, maybe non-lawyers, maybe Fortune 500 CEOs, people who are just really, 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 really good about maximizing efficiency, gaining market share, gaining a competitive edge. I mean, imagine going up against those CEOs. You're not even going to worry about the lawyers. So here's a few things to consider when you're going up against non-lawyer-owned firms. The first thing is they got massive budgets. Now, there's few firms here who would even consider investing millions of dollars a month in their marketing. But to a hedge fund, it's pocket change. And what happens if they go the Jeff Bezos route and say, hey, you know what? If your cost of acquisition for a case, let's say it's $1,000, $3,000, they say, whatever, we'll pay $10,000. It's hard to compete with that. The second one is in terms of talent. Now, in most non-lawyer, kind of corporate structures, one of the things that attracts great talent and great leaders is the ability to share in equity and share in stock. But lawyer-owned firms can only do that with other lawyers. So there's going to be the opportunity to be able to bring in the best people and the best talent that come with that equity package as well. And then finally, check this out. Did you know that the legal industry, $370 billion industry, but as of this year, there is not a single firm in the world that generates even 1% of gross legal fees paid annually. Not a single one. Talk about a fragmented industry. I mean, even Kirkland & Ellis, probably one of the oldest firms, started in 1909. Check this out. This firm generates $4.83 billion a year, over 3,000 attorneys in 18 offices, and they don't even get 1% of gross legal fees paid annually. And when it comes to fragmented industries, it's not unusual for private equity to swoop in and say, hey, we got to consolidate. We got to bring this together because all the revenue's all spread out. And if you're familiar with the dental industry, this is what happened with DSOs, dental service organizations. You used to have these mom and pop dental practices, and then in the 1990s, private equity swoops in with the DSOs, and before you know it, it's Aspen Dental. And you know who's the employee of Aspen Dental? The dentist who owned the mom and pop shop. In fact, check this out. 9 out of 10 DSOs are now owned by private equity. And by 2030, 50% of all dental practices will be owned by DSOs. This one, Aspen Dental, check it out. 46 states, almost 1,000 locations, and 13,000 staff. Now, some of you might be shaking your head, not even buying this non-lawyer firm ownership stuff. You're saying, hey, it's a ways off. It ain't going to happen. Like, it's going to be, the accounting firms. They're not interested in us, all that stuff. Sure, okay. Let's say you don't buy any of it. Well, here's another thing to think about. We timed that perfectly, right? The alarm bells are ringing. Thank you. Okay? So, check this out. I don't know if you guys know this. I'm going to hit you with some interesting facts. So did you know that 67% of all law firms in America are owned by baby boomers? And over 25% of all lawyers practicing today are over 65 years old. And finally, there's almost been a 12% decrease in law school applications over the past year. Where are they going? Maybe they're becoming influencers. But today, the youngest baby boomer is 57 years old. The youngest. So what's going to happen in the next 10 years? Well, one of two things. Okay? Voluntary retirement. Okay? Well, you built by that point, you've built a sustainable law firm that can continue without you at the helm, or involuntary retirement. And what's your legacy going to look like? We'll dig 2 graves. So there's really only 2 options. Grow or die. The legal industry is a competitive place. And law firms that don't stay relevant, they don't have the luxury of leaving ruins. They just disappear. So it's separation season. Okay, winter is here. Okay? And you can either be a victim of circumstance, or you can be a game changer. Now, game changers understand that your circumstances aren't the reason you can't succeed, they're the reason in which you must succeed. Cy Wakeman, one of our speakers. And your job as a leader is to prepare your firm for the future. And that starts by understanding and recognizing that you're running a business.